بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mubarak to you all, my dear elders and brothers and sisters, on this auspicious occasion, on the birth of the Imam of our time, Imam Ajjalallahu Farajahu Sharif. Tonight, as a special night, I want to contribute a small speech to honor the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Amr, Sahib of this time, the guide, al-Hadi, and the guided, al-Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Farajahu Sharif. My topic tonight is understanding the awaited one. Imam was born on the 15th of Sha'ban, 255 AH in Samarra, Iraq. The year 255 reminds us of ayah 255 of Surah Baqarah, which is famously known as Ayatul Kursi. Is this a coincidence that the year which Imam was born is the same as Ayatul Kursi? I don't think it's a coincidence, since we all know Ayatul Kursi. I think Allah wants us to remember the Imam all the time in the same way that we remember Ayatul Kursi all the time. His father was Imam Hassan al-Askari, the 11th Imam, the noble Imam who was taken to a remote area of Iraq by Banu Abbas. His mother was Nargis, Lady Nargis, the pious one. Banu Abbas had a feeling that Al-Mahdi, the Savior, would be born from the family of Nargis and Al-Askari, alayhim as-salam. Something they didn't want to happen. So they plotted and plotted, but of course Allah had other plans, and Imam was born on the 15th of Sha'ban. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَمْقُرُونَ وَيَمْقُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. As we all know, the Imam is in occultation and we are waiting for him. However, there are two perspectives for dealing with the awaited Imam. The first one is a physical perspective, as an absent individual. The physical perspective deals with the material approach which focuses on meeting with the Imam, how he looks, and even writing and sending ariza to him. The second one is a spiritual one, where he is present but not absent. This means that an Imam is distinguished by his values, principles, and ethics, not by his physical body. It is narrated that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Awwaluna Muhammad, awsatuna Muhammad, akhiruna kulluna." Again, awwaluna Muhammad, awsatuna Muhammad, akhiruna Muhammad, kulluna Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Nare Takbir, Nare Risalat, Nare Haidari.
Some people may think that these are just names, but they have a deeper meaning. These are the stages of Muhammad's truth. The first Muhammad is the first stage of planting the seed of mercy, which was done by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second Muhammad is the intermediate stage of the expansion of the knowledge of Rasulullah, which was done by Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. The third Muhammad is the final stage of Muhammad al-Mahdi alayhi salam, to establish an ideal state and apply complete justice. When we're waiting for the reappearance of Imam Mahdi, we need to make sure we do four main things. Keep doing good deeds. We also need to be active rather than passive. We need to equip ourselves with quality knowledge. And finally, we need to make sure wherever we are, the Imam is pleased with us. Thank you very much for listening to my short speech. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hassan, Jazakallah, Brother Rashid. I'm sure you keep entertaining us in the near future speeches as well with short and sweet words. Now, without any further delays, I would like to request our Qibla, our beloved Sayyid Taqi Rizvi Sahab, to please come forward and inshallah deliver tonight's speech. But Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
नारे तकबीर अल्लाहु अकबर नारे तकबीर अल्लाहु अकबर नारे रिसालत या रसूल अल्लाह नारे रिसालत या रसूल अल्लाह नारा हैदरी या अली हैदरी या अली मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद बुलंद तर सलावत अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद
मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला अशरफिल अंबिया'i वल मुरसलीन सय्यिदना व मौलाना अबुल क़ासिम मुहम्मद अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद व अला आलिहि तय्यिबीन अत्ताहिरीन अल मअसूमीन व लअनतुल्लाहि अला आदाइहिम मिन यौमिना इला यौमिद्दीन अम्मा बअद फ़क़द क़ाल अल्लाहु तबारक व तआला फ़ी क़ुरआनिल हकीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम फ़तहनाहुम फ़िल अर्ज़ि उममन मिनहुम अस्सालिहून व मिनहुम दून ज़ालिक व यलौनहुम बिल हसनाति व सय्यिआति लअल्लहुम यरजिऊन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद. I honestly wish I hadn't prepared so much because half of the speech Rashid has taken away from me. But anyway, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So before I go deep into the speech, I thought, well, since mashallah Madai Urdu mein to huyi, so there should be something of Madai in English as well. So I've prepared a few sentences before inshallah move into the next to the speech inshallah. My poem is called Shaban, the birthplace of Karbala. Shaban, the birthplace of Karbala. On the first day came Bint Ali, a sister so dear. Because some of the Tariq says that first of Shaban is also the wiladat of Hazrat Zainab Salamun alayha. On the first day came Bint Ali, a sister so dear. On the third came the Imam, for whom all wanted to hear. From whom all wanted to hear. On the fourth came the brother, nobody would want to dare. And on the fifth came the Imam, who protected the deed with his prayer. And on the 15th came the Imam, who was the final heir. The sister was she, who was the beauty of her father in all. Zainab means the beauty of the father. The sister was she, who was the beauty of her father in all. The Imam was he who gave everything before the fall. The brother was he who the sands on the sands of Karbala who stood so tall. And the son was he in front of Yazid stood like a wall. And the last was he who would take revenge for his grandfather with his call. Salawat. And there are another 7 sets of this, but I don't think I'll take you all right through it. Mind you, it's worth listening to it one day when the time comes, I will, inshallah. Just recapping quickly, Brother Rashid made some very important points about the wiladat and everything, which is very important to know that as the wiladat, as it is a fact, that whilst the 12th was certain to come, and the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt also knew that his forthcoming was a downfall for them, the rationale for their downfall was also clear to them. Because they knew, and every time, everywhere, anybody knows that he who is a zalim, he who is an oppressor, he who is a usurper, he is going to lose his usurped position by that which is haqq. That is reality, because everybody, even if you come across a thief and he comes across somebody who's a pious person, he says, "You're better than me." Because that thief knows what is bad and what is right. And all these khulafa who had taken up, usurped the position of the Aim Masumin, knew that they'd usurped it. So they knew that a time will come, and historically it was clear that an event would happen which will dismantle their usurpation. That's why any zalim, even to this present day, a zalim knows that his taqta, his platform, his stage is going to be removed. That's why you get this, this weird individual called Muhammad bin Salman, and he says, "I am prepared. I will fight Iran." Why will I fight Iran? Because they say that they're preparing for Mahdi. So it's clear from the outset that he who is a zalim, he who is an oppressor, he who's usurped Muslim land is going to have a downfall. Do you know that in the one university in the world which is probably doing more research on the Nahj Balagha than even our Shia institutions is Tel Aviv University? Because they're afraid, because they know that they're doing dhulm on the world, that dhulm, that platform of dhulm is going to be dismantled, and therefore their confrontation is knowing, their confrontation means that they must find out about that haqq to try and dismantle it. And even after the downfall of Iraq, so many activities of CIA went into Iraq to find out where this Mahdi is. Or where will this Mahdi come from? You know, this silly man, Muhammad bin Salman, says, "I'm going to be fighting Iran, stop Iran from bringing out the Mahdi." He's so blind, the Mahdi is going to come in Mecca. So why is he looking at it? Because his platform is going to be dismantled. Salawat. So the ayah that I've selected for you in our conversation, which is from the 7th surah, Surah Araf, ayat number 168. The ayat says, وَقَدْأَحْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا. And we have cut, or we have created, قَدْتَعَ means to break into, make into small parts. We have cut them up on the earth into parties, into groups. Umaman means groups. We have made them into groups. And making them into groups, what have we done? مِنْهُمَ الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنْهُمْ دُونَ ذَلِكَ. Those who have been created into these groups, some of them will be a people of good, salihin people, and there will be others who are not of this salih status. In others, there will be people who will not be salihin. They will be corrupt people. So the ayat is saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the community, the whole ummah, into groups. These groups, some of them will be good, some of them will be bad. وَبَلَوْنَاهُمْ بِالْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ. And for these groups, the good groups and the bad groups, we will give them a test, we will give them an examination, we will try them with goodnesses and bad bala'at, with tragedy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created mankind into groups. These groups will be good and bad, and they will be then tested with goodness, with hasanat, with goodness and happiness, and with tragedy and sadness. Why will they be tested? So much so that so much so that they will return to God. Now the important thing is, the ayat is saying two very important things. That it's going to create groups which are good and bad. Then both of these groups will be tested with good and bad. You know, if somebody is evil, sometimes we think, oh God, why am I, who's a Mu'min, always being tested with the destitution, and he who's wealthy is tested with the Trump? Sorry, I meant Trump. So in reality, why does this happen? It's not that God is disrespecting the Mu'min. It is that test of hasanat and bala. Hasanat and tragedy. So we have to, in hasanat, be grateful. In tragedy, to show sabr. That is the character that we who are in the state of intizar, we who are in the state of waiting for the 12, we have to understand that his birth is the goodness, and the wait is that sabr, which will yield sometimes tragedy, and sometimes goodness. So that's why we have to understand that when we're looking at the birth of the 12, we have to understand that sometimes people just talk about the birth in relation to a celebration. But it's not just a celebration. It is in fact a creation of that theology and that ideology on which the followers of the Aim Masumin are meant to put themselves onto until the reappearance of the 12. In other words, the weighting of the 12 is that azmaish, is that examination of the mu'mineen. That whilst we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed to us the 12, we have to understand that some people who are pious, have the opportunity to have the audience with the 12. It's not as if in the absence there is nobody who actually has any connection to him. That connection always happens. That connection is there not only just for the 12, but that connection happens when, for example, people go to masjid and have the tawassul with Imam Reza alayhi salam. So when we can have tawassul with the Imam of the past, we certainly have the capability of having tawassul with the Imam of the present. We have to make ourselves strong enough to such a level. There was a lovely story of Imam Reza alayhi salam, that the two little stories I'll say in between our conversation to make this tawassul clear to everybody. Because it's quite known to everybody in our belief that if you are almost kind of destitute of any connections, the sole connection that's left for us in this day and age is to go to the Zawiya of Imam Reza alayhi salam and ask for his attention to us. There was a story about this young man. And there was a businessman, you might have heard this story from some other people. There was an Iranian businessman who used to travel to the West. And his son used to come with him. Then when his son became old enough, he tells his father, I want to get married, but I want to get married to some girl in the West. But the father was reluctant, he didn't want to. He said that, look, I can find you decent families, good respectable families, wealthy families in Iran. Why don't you get married to a young lady in Iran, and then you can go with me to business in Europe wherever I go, but you have a stable life. He said, no, I want to get married to a European girl. This happened. So our father said, okay, before we go and sort out this thing about your marriage, let's go and visit Imam Reza. When he was going to go and visit Imam Reza, he had a friend who used to be involved in the cleaning of the haram, what they call the that type of accumulating the dust around the haram. They used to go there, tidy up the haram. So that friend of his told this Tajid person, he said, look, I'm going to go there on such and such a day. So Tajid said, oh, that's brilliant, we're coming over there. Is there any way of me coming in to clean the haram? So he said, okay, no problem. Managed to arrange 2 entrances to the haram for him and his son. So they went in, and they were cleaning up, and suddenly the son gathered some dust, and he asked his friend, can I take this? So yes, you can take it. So he just picked up a piece of paper which was in the haram, put this dust in there, and took it home. When he got home to look at the dust, in that paper that he picked up, there was a note for Imam Reza alayhi salam. There's a note in that which said, I am a 26-year-old girl, my father is a dustbin man, I do not get any attention for marriage, and you are the sole individual who can now help me in this situation. This boy read it. He said, my goodness, what is this? He showed it to his father. His father read it. Because his father had some friends in Mashhad, he went and checked out with the metropolitan arrangements and found out where this dustman family was. He got in his big car and whatever, went to visit this dustman family, and went to him and said, we've come to ask for marriage of your daughter. And the dustman family is kind of, what do you want about? I'm a cleaner, you're a big businessman, what are you coming to my house for? He said, no, we've decided we want to marry your daughter. And they get married. Then the girl says to him, you came to my house, you're wealthy people, explain to me how this happened. He said, and he showed her the note which she had written. And he picked it up. This is the tawassul that we can make if we really have that desire to associate with the Imam. There's another story about when they were building the haram in Imam Reza, when they were doing the construction of Imam Reza alayhi salam, there was a German architect who was working there. And this German architect, he saw his friend, who was an Iranian who was working with him. The Iranian would go to the haram every evening and stay overnight and everything and then come home. So this German used to watch him. Then when the contract finished, the last evening, this German disappeared. There was nowhere to be seen. This friend of his, he said, where's this guy gone? We're going to be going off to Germany tomorrow. And this guy's no longer, I got to find him because our flight is tomorrow, type of thing. So he says, when he came back, this Iranian asked this German, where were you? He said, I went to visit that same person, the same building which you usually go to visit, and I thought I'd spend the night over there. He said, look, you spend the night over there, but all night your wife's been calling you. Where have you been? I'm sure she's got a problem, something's the matter. She's called at least 10 times. Aren't talk to her. He said, okay. He called her up. He said, he says, he spoke to her, and she said to him, because the main crux of this story is that this German's daughter was a disabled girl. Totally disabled for years and years, she's never walked. When he called his wife up, the wife said, where have you been last night? She said, well, I've been out somewhere. She said, last night, our daughter started walking. And he said, just get a ticket and come in. So the wife and the daughter, they came. And when they came, and when he took the wife and the daughter to visit the haram, the girl said, Dad, it is from that building that somebody came and touched me and I started walking. These are the realities, brothers and sisters. We don't have the genuine want for tawassul. We don't, sometimes you think, what is this tawassul? What is this connection? Even when we pray, we don't have the connection with God sometimes. Why? Because we don't, when we recite the surahs of the Quran that we're reciting in the salat, we don't even know the meanings of those surahs whilst we're reciting them. So how are you going to make that connection with God without knowing what you're talking about? And that's why even in the hearts of some of our people, the importance of salat is not seen because they don't know the meaning of the salat that they're praying. So to know the meaning of the tawassul with the imam, it's something really grand. But it can happen. It's not as if it cannot happen. And we've got examples, as I said, of a disbeliever whose child starts walking, and a believer who thought that he was going to get married in the West, but he found the best and the bettering that he could have ever found because he's connecting with the imam. So that is where, when this ayat is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made people of the salihin and the ghair salihin, He's saying that when you are of the good, then you will be tested and will you walk yourself proudly through that test. That is the important factor. You are Sadat, you are non-Sadat, your Hassans and your Husains and your Fatimas and your Zahras. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given you the privilege of having the best names allocated to yourselves. With those best names, you've already stepped one step closer to the tawassul and the connection. Don't destroy that one step already which you have with the names and the efforts that have gone into you with your parents and your grandparents to give you that status. And it's so important here, just in brackets, I've said it before as well, I'm sure you might remember, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the pride of naming our children good, beautiful names, why do we then spoil them by when we have a Hassan, we start calling him Hus? When we have a Fatima, we start calling her Fatty. She may be the most slimmest girl in the house, but we're calling her Fatty because we've made her name short. And just recently, when we got a lovely name like Muhammad and becomes Mo, this is wrong. Because Allah's already given us the first step to come close to that tawassul, and that is our names. That's the identity. It is that pride of that identity which our Imam of our time is waiting to make sure how we elevate that capability of that pride to such a level to have an audience with him. It's not just, as the brother said about Al-Zihar and things like that, it's not writing, it's being which is important. We can write what we like. It's not as if our Aqidah doesn't say that it will not be addressed to the Imam, but the point is, will we then be part of that action which has enabled us to write that? Do we only want Imam to give us a material reward, or do we want our Imam to give us the ability to raise our spirituality as well? Because the more we raise our spirituality, the more we raise our Iman in what the truth of Imamate is, the more we will come close to him, even if we are not alive for his zuhur. That is important. That is paramount in our learning, in our celebration of this Imam. Salawat. But what is important to understand in this celebration is, yes, we've, alhamdulillah, got a lovely intention in our lives to develop ourselves such that the 12th comes. But the point is, this intizar itself, what is it for? Is it for us to think, well, I waited for him, I didn't last it, so okay, I'm going. What is the waiting that I did? How did I do that? Waiting is important. You know, it's like, if for example, let's put it this way, appearance of the Imam for us is certain, like Maut is certain. When he comes is uncertain. Now, if the uncertainty is a reality, we are being tested in this uncertainty. But what we have to do in this uncertainty is the fact that we prepare for the certainty. You know, it's like somebody says, if I told you, open the shop, but for sure, you will not have any customers coming. Are you going to open your shop? You're not, because you know that nobody's going to come. But you know in your heart that the Imam is going to come. So why are we not preparing for that coming? It would be, if we said, okay, Imam is going to come in the next 3,000 years later. So we all know that until 2,999, I don't have to do anything about it. But the reality is that we don't know it's 2,999 or 2 seconds later. In the same manner as more. We don't know when that's going to come next. But because of the fact that we do not understand the meaning of intizar, we don't understand the meaning of preparation for that reappearance, we do not realize in the both situations that Maut can be at any time and we will be in front of Allah. And if we do not die, the Imam can come at any time and we will be in front of the Imam. That realization is not in our agenda. Salawat. That's why, if we go to Surah Bani Israel, Surah Isra, which is the 17th surah of the Quran. I've used this ayat before in other discussions for you, and it's easy to remember. It's the 17th surah of the Quran, ayat number 71. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Yawma nadu kullu nasin bi imamihi. Remember the day when we will call every people with their Imam. Now, this is a very important ayat. It's saying that don't forget, you are going to be called up with your Imam. But if you do not prepare yourself in the manner that that Imam to which you associate to, you do not prepare in that manner as he wants you to prepare, then you will be called up with an Imam. The ayat is saying, remember that day when you will be called up with your Imam. In other words, if somebody thought Karl Marx was his leader, he will be their Imam. If somebody thought Margaret Thatcher was their leader, then Margaret Thatcher on the Day of Judgment will be leading these people. If they thought Theresa May is their leader, then Brexit will be leading them to the Yawm al-Qiyamah. But the point is, remember, the Imam is he whom you have associated to and planned yourself with. And if you do not plan yourself with the 12th Imam, then on the Day of Judgment, with this ayat which says, Yawma nadu kullu nasin bi imamihi, remember that day that every single person will be called up with his Imam. We who are believers will be called up with our Imam. They will be called up with their Imam. Because this ayat is mutlaq. In the Quranic interpretation, mutlaq means that ayat which is a common application to it. In other words, the word Imam is a common application in the sense of leadership. And because we, the Shias, think this ayat only relates to 12 Imams. But in reality, when you look at the tafsir, it means to the meaning, or gives the meaning of applying to all leaderships, whoever the leader may be. Ours obviously is a pure Imam. Other people, Allma Hilli in his Ahada Ashar, in one of the books of Aqaid, says Imam has dual meanings. You have an Imam Am and Imam Khas. Imam Am means any aspect of leadership is Imam Am. But Imam Khas is relating to the khawas of our Imams. So to think that loves the Imam, the word Imam means only our 12 Imams, is a misinterpretation and realization of what is expected of us. So that ayat says, remember that day that every single person will be called up with his Imam. Now the main important thing is that when we understand that we will be called up with our Imams, then what is the expectation of our Imam? Because in this period of intizar, in this period of awaiting, we have to understand what we're waiting for and how we should be waiting in it. And that is why it's important for us to then be able to understand that preparation that we have to do. Our preparations are quite important. Why are they important? Because we are connecting our hereafter to that expectations of our present Imam. And our present Imam has expectations, because it is said that there's a tradition which says when somebody commits a sin, then every evening his actions are reported to our Imam of our time, and he cries over the fact that his mu'min has committed a sin. Do we really want our Imam to cry over us? Or do we want our Imams to be happy over us? The fact that if our Imam cries over our actions means that he is genuinely present, he's not absent. We're the ones who do not have the ability and the shan and the capability and the quality to have an audience with him to realize that he's seeing us. You know, a lot of people think, and it's a fact, that there are a lot of grand ulama who have had audience with the Prophet because they've elevated themselves, because they've raised themselves spiritually and belief-wise to such a level that the Imam invites them to him. You see, a lot of people say that mein mulaqat hui Imam se. Mulaqat nahi hoti hai. People don't have a meeting with the Imam. Imam gives them the ability to have an audience with him. There's a difference. Because a meeting you and I can arrange with anybody, any Tom, Dick or Ali. But this is an audience where he sees your qualities to invite you in. Is that the invitation we are striving for? Can we really develop ourselves to such a level? And there are several things in our own actions that need to be evaluated. Because one of the things which will help these eyes to see the Imam of their time will be those eyes which have not seen na mahram with them. Freely and in an azad manner. You know, there's a saying which says, you know, don't look at something which is haram. A second side of that haram thing is wrong. So people say, well, my 18 aankh se dekhte hai Thomas. You know, so that's wrong. Because your eyes are being wasted, because they're not being given the chance to be ready to see the Imam. They're being wasted to see things which are na mahram. These hands are being wasted because you want to have the capability of feeling for your Imam, but your hands are feeling something else which is haram. You know, if you look at, we also celebrated the Wiladat of our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. One of his major books of activities of writings that he left behind for us is something called the Risalat al-Huquq, the Treaty of Rights. And there are 52 different rights that he talks about in it, of which right at the beginning he talks about the rights of the parts of a human being's body. Your eyes have been created so they see halal. Your ears have been created because they hear halal, they don't hear riba. Your hands are created because they should not feel anything that's haram. Your feet are created to make sure that they don't walk in the places that are haram. And all these characteristics of your body are created so such that they are tuned to raise your body to such a level that then Imam says this man is ready because he or this woman is ready because they have tried their utmost to not associate to haram so that they can have an audience to see that is absolutely halal for them. And that is the Imam. That is what we should be striving for. That is the whole purpose of celebrating his Wiladat, is to elevate ourselves to such a level that we raise ourselves to such a level of perfection we cannot be, because that is the Imam's position of being absolutely perfect. But when we say we're walking on the path of our Imams, then our path of the Imams doesn't mean that we then walk into something haram, because our Imams would never have walked in anything haram. So that is the reality. So when we look at this aspect of the Imams being the direction of our behavior, the intention of our aims of life, then we have to address what we're doing, how we're raising our children to be the next. Because, as I said, we're all in the stage of intizar. That doesn't mean because I'm waiting for the Imam that I don't prepare my children to wait for the Imam as well properly. This is not a off-the-cuff possibility, it is a reality. So we have to make sure that what we train our children, what we train, ourselves, and what our forefathers have trained us to be, these are all those, if they're done properly, these are all those preparations for the 12th. It's not that such that I prepare my child so he becomes a managing director. I prepare my child such that he becomes a CEO of a company. All these CEOs and all these statuses, they mean nothing if those statuses require you to do haram to achieve them. A lot of people aspire, or a lot of our community aspires to become councillors in their areas. A lot of our people aspire to become MPs, mad politicians. MP means mad politician, doesn't it? So we're all aspiring to become something of that nature. We all can become that if we really want to, but do we really want to become an MP so that we are authenticating haram things? You see, one thing which we as Muslims lack, and that is the ability to become strong lobbyists for Imam Zaman. Because when we enter into a system which destroys that lobbyist status of us and makes us part and parcel of the system, then we cannot fight for that standard that we think we're carrying. A lot of people who become councillors or mad politicians, they are sitting there signing off things which are haram, approving these haram educational systems in our schools, approving these haram issues of relationships and things in our communities. Do we all want to be a party to that, or do we want to lobby to protect our community from that? We have to make sure that our next generation doesn't become a accidental waiter for the Imam. He should be a prepared individual waiting for the Imam, such that all those other things which could weaken him are not weakening factors. Salawat. So when we're striving to do that, two other points. How long do I have? It's 10 to 10 at the moment. I don't mind. We've got all night, as he said. Salawat. Anyway, if you want all night, then I'll get up for a little while you entertain them again, then I'll come back on that. Salawat. You see, the important thing of waiting for the Imam is how we prepare ourselves, what we use as a tool of preparing ourselves. And one of the most important tools that we have as a community is an institution like this. These are the tools, but these tools must be led by people who care that they are representing the Imam of their time in their organizations. They just get elected, okay, now I've got elected, Bismillah, I've become the president or the general secretary or treasurer. No, you are technically the representatives of the Imam of your time, because the center is a tool by which the Imam's message is promoted. So you've got to make that a reality, because we have a hadith from the Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, "Inna a'immatukum qadatukum ila Allah." Your Imams are your leaders towards Allah. That's an important statement. It's not just having a Sunday school, it's making sure that Sunday school becomes a tool of training these children so that they become the future guides of the community, future trainers of the community, future protectors of the community, future preparers of the community to lead them to Imam Zaman. That is and the center is that tool. And if we think that it just means having 4 walls and that's it, then you are all wasting your time. I'm wasting my time. It is a point from where Imam Zaman's representatives, and each representation has different stages. Imam Zaman, then you have the Marajas, then you have the people who represent the Marajas, then you have people who are running institutions. That is that lineage of leadership towards the Imam. And that's why one important point, when this ayat says that in a'immatan qadatukum ilallah, that your Imams are your leaders towards Allah, then it says, the hadith says, Fandhuru, be careful. Fandhuru bima yaqtaduna. Be careful about whom, be careful about those who you follow as leaders. Be careful of who you follow as leaders. Fiddinakum wa salatukum. In your religious responsibilities and in your prayers. So it's very important. And this is where we have to understand that one of the important factors of intizar is to realize that how you're going to be led to the Imam. How you're going to be brought to the Imam. And our 11th Imam has made that quite clear to us. You know, our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam, he was also in a state of ghaibat. You know, he was hidden away. How was he hidden away? Majority of his life he was in prison. So how did the followers of the 11th Imam get connected to the Imam? This is important to understand. Whilst the Imam is in prison, there's no way of people getting to him. How did people get to know what the Imam wanted? From the time of the fact that the Imam was in prison, he had created a principle for the Shia belief that in the absence of the Imam, you've got to make sure that you follow those who are representing the Imam of that time. Our 11th Imam had numerous representatives who had always the opportunity in, whenever the Imam had the opportunity to be out of prison, they had the opportunity to associate with the Imam to get that quick connection so that when he's back in prison, they could continue the guidance of the community. That is the principle that our Imam identified. So much so that there's a lovely story which I might have said to you about this person who was a representative of the 11th Imam. He was going off to some far land, going off somewhere to go and collect khums on behalf of the 11th Imam. The 11th Imam said that when you come back next time, you will find me dead. But you will have to ask whoever's saying that he is my successor, you will have to ask him certain questions, and he who is my successor, proper successor, he will answer to your questions correctly. For he who is not my proper successor, he would not know what he's answering to. So this man, when he got back from his trip, from a collection of khums on behalf of the Imam, he came and he saw that the Imam's body was lying in rest for about to be prayed upon. When he saw that what is known within our communities as Jafar Kadhab, he was a 12th Imam's uncle. He was about to lead the Salat. Before. So this man went to Jafar Kadhab. Jafar Kadhab means Jafar who is the most biggest liar. Because Jafar claimed that he was the successor to the Imam. Now, when he asked him questions, he couldn't answer it. So then he saw this young child coming over to recite the prayers. He asked him the questions. Immediately the child said, "You've got this much money, give it to such and such a person, such and such a person." Immediately he realized that this is the Imam of the time. In other words, that representative, the representative is an important principle in our existence as Shias. And that is what has been given to us in the ghaibat of the 12th Imam. That in the absence of the 12th Imam, you make sure that you follow those who are representing the 12th Imam. And this principle is not something new. This principle was something which even Imam Hussain alayhi salam put into place. When Imam Hussain alayhi salam sent Muslim ibn Aqil to Kufa, he was a representative of the 12th Imam in absence to the people of Kufa. It was the Kufi who abandoned that representation of the representative of the Imam that they suffered. if we're not careful and we ignore the representation of the 12, then we too will suffer like the Kufis. That we will miss out on he who is representing the Imam of the time. So this principle of the representative, what we define now as the marja taqleed, is that concept that our Imam of our time has identified for us, our Imams of the past had identified for us, so much so that in their absence, we recognize the test to follow someone who we consider bigger than ourselves in knowledge. And that is the important factor, because when we look at history of our Aimam Masumeen, people have always been brought to them by the representatives. You know, when Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, one of his representatives, who's known as Basri, was in Basra, one of his representatives. People from Basra came to Imam. They said, we have a lot of problems in wanting to know about our religious responsibilities. How are we meant to address them? So he says, in Basra, you've got Basri, ask him. In other words, the procedure of asking a representative of the Imam of the time is something which is an identified procedure for us Shias. It is our evil behaviors which tell us taqleed is not important, hum marja taqleed ki taqleed nahi karte, hum Imam Ali alayhi salam ki taqleed karte. This is all artificial. That is not the reality of Shia. The reality of Shia is to do taqleed of a Imam, of a representative of the Imam. And anyway, those people who say we don't do taqleed, they're doing taqleed of those people who are saying don't do taqleed. Yes, it's a fallacy. It's an insult to Shia belief that we abandon the. You see, those people who are presenting the argument that taqleed is not important, they are going to the root of attacking Shia belief. Because you see, taqleed means a representative on behalf of the 12th Imam. Now that means the ulama who are representative on behalf of the 12th Imam, they in themselves have the judges, they in themselves have the collection of khums, they in themselves have the meaning of leadership on behalf of the 12th. When they say taqleed is not important, they are attacking the financial aspect of Shia and they're attacking the leadership aspect of Shias on behalf of the 12th Imam. And that's what we have to be very careful about. That within our communities there are many people who are aspiring to create a situation where they say we are waiting for the 12th or we're doing taqleed of the 11th, we don't need these in-betweeners. You know, I said to you before, there's a radio channel which is on Sky TV called the Al-Muntazir, and they call themselves, they are the Muntazireen. And their very principle is that they will have people on board who do not do taqleed. Because they say, we're Muntazir, we're waiting for the 12th Imam, what do we need of these, Baqal themselves, these Lalupanju ulama? This is their definition. And that is where we have to be careful, that we do not lose that hadith of the Imam which says that be careful, and the hadith I'll tell you, فَانْظُرُوا بِمَا يَقْتَدُونَ, be careful about those whom you follow. And that's very important. Because the reality is that in this day and age, whilst we're waiting for the 12th Imam, that if we do not follow those principles which will lead us to the 12th Imam, then we will be following those people who will be leading us to the Shaitan's Imam. And that is where you find that in this day and age, our responsibility is to identify with Haqq. Because the more we identify with Haqq, the more we will identify with Imam Zaman. Because as I said to you, those who are zalims, they're the ones who are trying to fight the Imam. Because they know that they're usurpers, they know that they're batil, they know that they're fasad, they know they're corrupt. And the only way that they can keep their corruption going is by depressing that which is Haqq. Depriving the world from that which is Haqq. And if we are not careful and not being able to understand that reality of Haqq, then we will miss out on that train which will lead us to Imam Zaman. And we will mount that train which will lead us to Imam Shaitan. And that is where this hadith is saying, be careful of those whom you follow, for following the wrong will lead you to the wrong. Salawat. Because in one of the traditions from our third Imam, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, He says that one of the attributes of a Imam is that innal hakimu bil kitab. He is that who rules according to the book, who rules according to the Quran, who rules on the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands. Any individual who encourages you to insult those principles of Islamic beliefs which are identified through the carriers, what we call the Quran and Natiq. Because our Aimai Masumin are Quran and Natiq. Our Aimai Masumin are the speaking Quran. When our speaking Qurans are telling us to follow people who are right, then who are we to tell people not to follow people who are right? This is where we have to understand that our Imams are ruling on us on the instructions of the Quran. And those who have the courage to then study those messages of the Quran, so much so that they feel that they have brought themselves close to the 12, that they can quite easily, salawat, they can quite easily claim rightfully that they are representative of the 12. And for sure, if you look into the history of our fuqaha, you'll find that those who have taken on zalims, oppressors, those who have taken on dhulm, they are genuinely the leaders of the Muslim Ummah. And that's why, you see, for example, when Imam Khomeini took on the Shah, there was zulm all over Iran. You know, there was a bank on one of these streets in Tehran, which is a very busy street. In the Shah's time, there was a bank which used to open 24 hours a day. You think, my God, mashallah, they were very advanced people having a banking system which operated 24 hours a day. But the reason why this bank operated 24 hours a day was because next door there was a casino which operated 24 hours a day. So whoever won any of his bits of casino coins could go to the bank and exchange it for tumans. That was Iran. That was Tehran. That was Shah's Iran. Yes, Iran is not a state of Masumiyat, but Iran is certainly a much more elevated state than what it was during Shah's time. And of course, most of the pressures on Iran are because of the fact that this tramp makes everything illegal against Iran. Makes the most important battling institution that if it did not fight in Syria, if it did not fight in Iraq, Syria would have fallen to ISIS. Iraq, the ISIS had already said that they were going to wipe out Karbala and Najaf. They were already planning to wipe out Zanabiyah. That if this important institution of the Islamic Republic of Iran did not go there to protect the people, those places would have been wiped out. It was designated that those brave people as being terrorists. How can that be possible? Because we have misunderstood what haqq is and what batil is. And when we have genuine ulama who are going to stand for the truth, then you have a situation like, for example, with Imam Khomeini, that you find when one day somebody came to give Imam Khomeini khums. He gave him khums and he's just sitting there. So Imam Khomeini says, he just sat there and looked at the next person and the next person. So this guy didn't get anything from Imam Khomeini other than just a receipt. He goes out to the person outside. He says, what is this person? I've just bought him several £1,000s or several $1,000, and he hasn't even said thank you. And whilst he's saying that, within that few seconds, his money was returned to him. Imam Khomeini's under secretary brought the money back and said, this money hasn't been accepted. Because of the fact that the person was not giving khums, he was trying to get a favor, so as to say. And in the same manner, there was another person in Isfahan, when Imam Khomeini had moved to, when he was deported and he was living in Najaf. This man, he used to collect khums for Imam Khomeini in Isfahan. He wrote a letter to Imam Khomeini that, can you please, because whenever somebody collects khums, as a collector, the Majid Taqlid usually gives them a little amount for the costs of collection and all that. So let's say he was given the chance, he was given the permission to take 5,000 tumans. So he wrote to Imam Khomeini, he said, that amount that you've allotted me, it's too little, can you allot more for me? Imam Khomeini replied back to him, he says, no, what I've given you is enough. So Azai was going to Iraq, he said to him, tell Imam Khomeini that the amount he's giving me is not enough. So the guy comes back, he says, no, Imam Khomeini said, what I've given you is enough. So then he writes him a third letter. He says, if you don't increase what you have allowed me, I will tell people that you're not a person whose taqleed should be done. Taqwallah indeed, followed by. But listen to the answer that Imam Khomeini says. He says, if you do this for me, you will do me a favor in front of Imam Zaman. Because collecting khums is not a joke. You're collecting on behalf of Imam Zaman. In fact, it's not a joke even for the executives of this organization when they collect khums, that they don't spend it rightfully. But if you realize that you're collecting for Imam Zaman, then you know the responsibility on your shoulder. So the more you are removed from that responsibility, you have less to answer to Imam Zaman. And that's what Imam Khomeini was saying. Tell people that you don't have to do taqleed of mine. Because that would mean, in front of Imam Zaman, I would have less to answer. Brothers and sisters, you've got to remember, your actions are answerable to your Imam of your time. And if you do not prepare yourselves with the right answers, then you will be given too many questions, and pray for me that I have reduced the questions on my shoulder in front of Imam Zaman. For we all are striving to become both the soldiers of our Imam of our time and also be accepted by the Imam of our time. And if we don't understand and just celebrate this wiladat as just another celebration, then we have not really and truly connected to that aspirations that we have ourselves to meet up with the Imam of our time. And of course, if we prepare our children, then whenever 12th Imam appears, then don't think there's going to be a big party. Because when the 12th Imam appears, then there will be a big confrontation. And we've got to prepare our children to be part and parcel of that army which the 12th Imam requires to face up to the consequences of his appearance. Because whilst we are preparing from the Imam, then you also have the lunatics like Muhammad bin Salman who are preparing against the Imam. So let's pray that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us capable of being part and parcel of our 12th Imam's army if he appears, and if we're not alive, that we'll prepare our next generation to be able to be ready for that association. I pray that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us capable mu'mineen, that we train our next generation to join him. I pray that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us defenders of those who are carrying the message of the 12th Imam, those being the Maraji of our time, Ayatollah Sistani and Ayatollah Khamenei Wilayat Taqi, that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the Rahbar of our time, Imam Khamenei, that capability to lead our ummah in such a manner that he and the rest of the Maraji can help to give this ummah of ours into the hands of our 12th Imam, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Ya Muqallib al-Qulub. Thabbit qalbi ala dinik. This dua is called Dua al-Ra'iq. This is a dua which is said that by Imam Jafar Sadiq al-Islam, that at the time of the 12th Imam, when it will be to protect your deen would be harder than carrying a burning coal in your hand, that you should recite this dua. That Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan, salawatuka alayhi wa ala abaih, fi hadayi as-sa'ati wa fi kulli sa'a. Waliyan wa hafidha wa qa'ida wa nasir wa dalila wa aina, hatta tuskinahu ardaka taw'a, فتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على جدك وأبيك. السلام على أمك وأخيك وعلى 9 المعصومين، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى محمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
صل على محمد
Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, we will be now serving food inshallah, and hopefully by quarter to 11 or latest 11 we will start A'mal for tonight inshallah, and the A'mal will be led by Sheikh Ayub Rashid, who will be attending his majalis very soon. Please, if you can remain, hopefully by 1 o'clock maybe we'll be done inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you.